Welcome to the explainer. So if you've ever turned the key in your ignition and wondered exactly what kind of mechanical sorcery gets you from point A to point B, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're taking a really fascinating micro to macro journey straight through the internal combustion engine. We're going to start small, literally from a single isolated piece of metal, the piston, and we'll build our way completely outward until we've got a fully functioning mechanical ecosystem in front of us. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our engineering blueprint for today. We are building this machine piece by piece. We'll start with the core four-stroke cycle, move on to how we deliver that power, figure out how it breathes air and fuel, survive the intense heat, wire up the electrical systems, and wrap it all up with oil and exhaust. All right, Section 1, the core four-stroke cycle, the true heartbeat of the machine. At the absolute center of this entire operation is a single piston. This is the sheer powerhouse of the engine. Now, when we say stroke, that simply means it's traveled to the very end of its range, right? Whether that's moving up or moving down inside its cylinder. Watch how these four strokes play out in sequence. First is intake. The piston violently descends, sucking an air-fuel mixture straight into the cylinder through open intake valves. Second is compression. All those valves slam shut and the piston rises, aggressively compressing that mixture for a much more powerful combustion. Third, we get the power stroke. An electrical spark ignites that highly compressed fuel and boom, the resulting explosion forces the piston back to the bottom. And finally, exhaust. The piston rises one last time, pushing the spent, burned mixture right out through the exhaust valves. From there, a heavy connecting rod takes all that newly created vertical power and transfers it directly to the crankshaft. Moving to Section 2, harnessing and delivering power, making the engine actually spin. So think about it. If we just had one piston exploding over and over again, it would be chaotic. It'd be incredibly jerky. We need to transition from these violent, isolated explosions into a smooth, continuous, usable stream of power. To solve that, instead of firing all at once, multiple pistons take turns. The exact firing order for the four-cylinder model engine we're looking at today is 1, 3, 4, 2. By staggering the power strokes in this very specific sequence, the engine is able to maintain a beautifully smooth, continuous operation. Let's see how this fits into the larger mechanism. To make absolutely sure the valves open exactly when the piston is in the right spot, we use this amazing interconnected dance of components. We have camshafts with these specially shaped cams that push spring-loaded valves open in turn. But how do they know exactly when to push? Well, cam gears and a timing belt, or sometimes a chain, link everything directly back to the crankshaft. It literally ties the top and bottom of the engine together so the whole thing spins perfectly in sync. Throw in some heavy counterweights down on the crankshaft to balance against those thrusting pistons, and you've got yourself perfectly smooth revolutions. Which actually brings us to a term you probably see every single time you drive, RPM. When you look at the tachometer dial on your dashboard, you know it's not just some random gauge. It is quite literally counting the number of full revolutions your engine's crankshaft is making every single minute. Now, structurally, you can kind of split this mechanical beast into two distinct halves. Down on the bottom, you have the heavy, robust engine block. Its main job is holding the crankshaft and the cylinders. Up on top sits the cylinder head, and that contains the more complex, delicate components, things like the valves, the intake ports, and the camshafts. Attached to one end of that crankshaft is a geared flywheel. This is crucial because it's how the engine connects to your car's transmission, and it's also where the starter motor hooks in to get everything spinning when you turn the key. Now, we're focusing on an inline four-cylinder setup today. But listen, even if you change configurations, say to an angled V6 or a massive V8, they might look totally different from the outside, but those basic structural components and the flywheel connections, they remain fundamentally exactly the same. Section 3, breathing air and fuel. This is all about feeding the fire. That core combustion process we just built, it simply can't survive on its own. It desperately needs life support systems. So let's trace the path of both key ingredients from the outside world straight into the combustion chamber. For the air, it gets pulled through an air filter to clean out the dust, flows right into the intake manifold, and gets sucked into the individual cylinders. Meanwhile, a single drop of fuel is pumped all the way from the gas tank at the very back of the car, pushed through a fuel filter, and arrives at the fuel injectors. Those injectors emit a precisely timed spray of gas directly into the intake port so it can mix perfectly with that clean air. Section 4. Surviving the heat, taming the chaos. We are talking about thousands of controlled explosions every single minute, which generates an insane amount of violent heat. So I gotta ask you, what actually keeps this giant metal powerhouse from just melting down into a puddle of slag while you're cruising down the highway? It's a massive engineering hurdle. And the ingenious solution here is liquid cooling. The engine block and the cylinder head are cast with all these hollow channels inside them. A special liquid runs through there, safely absorbing the extreme heat right out of the metal, and then carries it away to the radiator up at the front of the car. The radiator itself is just this intricate network of tiny tubes and fins. As you drive, the fan air blows over these tubes, cooling the hot liquid way down so it can be recirculated. You also have a thermostat acting like a little traffic cop, routing the liquid back to the engine or to the radiator depending on the exact temperature. Oh, and fun fact about that special liquid, we call it antifreeze for the simple reason that it won't freeze up solid in icy winter weather. Moving to Section 5, Electrical Systems, the brains and the jolt. So we've got the mechanical muscle and we've got the fuel, but without an electrical system acting as the command center and the trigger, the engine is literally just a pile of dead metal. Look at the precise anatomy of a spark plug. Essentially, it's a metal core tightly insulated by porcelain from its outer metal casing. When a perfectly timed surge of current is sent over from the coil pack, the electrical spark jumps right across the gap between these conductive surfaces. That tiny, incredibly precise jolt is exactly what ignites the whole explosive process in the cylinder. But who's telling the coil pack to send that current in the first place? Well, that would be the ECM, the engine control module. It's the computer brain of your car, constantly directing spark timing, valve timing, and those air-to-fuel ratios. To power all this while you're actually driving, the engine spins an alternator. This acts as a mechanical to electrical generator to keep your whole electrical system alive and humming. Now, you might be thinking about your car's battery. The actual battery is mostly just there to provide that one massive initial surge of power to the starter to get the engine spinning in the first place. Section 6. Oil, exhaust, and completion. The lifeblood and the exit. As our final pieces of the puzzle, we need a way to manage the intense friction between all these rapidly moving metal parts and a way to safely dispose of the toxic aftermath of that combustion. Motor oil is the absolute lifeblood of this entire machine. It's a massive multitasker with 5 very distinct jobs. It lubricates, it cleans, it prevents corrosion, it improves sealing, and it actually helps cool the engine by carrying heat away. This oil flows through special channels called galleries, drops down to an oil pan, and runs through a filter to stay clean. But we obviously don't want this vital fluid just burning up inside the combustion chamber, right? So specialized piston rings sit at the top of the piston, ingeniously blocking the oil from getting past, while still letting the cylinder walls stay perfectly lubricated. To keep all this straight, let's just quickly break down the 3 vital pumps in the engine so their critical roles don't blend together in your head. First, you have the fuel pump, simply moving gasoline up to the injectors. Then you have the water pump, which keeps your coolant pressurized and actively flowing through that radiator. And finally, the oil pump, ensuring your lubricant is highly pressurized and successfully reaching every single moving piece of metal inside the block. Finally, let's follow our spent fuel on its journey out of the car. Once it's pushed out of the cylinder, the exhaust manifold collects all those intensely hot gases from multiple cylinders and funnels them right into one single pipe. It then passes through the catalytic converter, which chemically captures those toxic engine emissions. Lastly, it flows through a muffler to reduce that loud explosive noise, ultimately making the car safe, clean, and quiet for the real world. And just like that, we've built it. From a single stroke of a single piston, we've zoomed all the way out. As creator Jake O'Neill notes in his awesome visualization, here's the full functioning engine with all the basic systems we've discussed. It truly is a stunning, synchronized ecosystem of air, fuel, electricity, and metal working in perfect harmony. But I want to leave you with a provocative thought as we wrap up this explainer today. We've just explored an absolute engineering marvel, one that has defined global mobility for a century and a half. But with the rapid rise of electric vehicles, which ditch this complex combustion ecosystem entirely in favor of batteries and simple motors, is the 150-year reign of the 4-stroke cycle finally coming to an end? It's definitely something to think about the next time you hear an engine roar to life. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you on the next one.